Your father works very hard for his money, and you waste it all on records.
Coalition of indie record stores called the Department of Record Stores, and that means I work with record stores. And I'd like to say that the good news is there are lots of women working in record stores. There have been since I worked in one myself. And there are lots of women opening their own record stores, which is very exciting. And I always have to tell people that because they don't think it's a natural thing for women to open record stores, but there are record stores owned by sisters, called Sisters of Sound, record stores named after the women who own them, Mills Record Company. Culture Shock is here, and the women of Culture Shock are very important to that. And there are a lot of mom and pops, and the mom is really important there, and there's a reason mom comes before pop, I think. So that's me, that's what I do, that's my experience. I'm gonna let these ladies introduce themselves and a little bit about what they do in the vinyl world.
I'm testing. Hi, my name is Connie Como. I'm from the ADS Group. I'm a Chief Operating Officer. I'm a manufacturer of optical media. I manufacture a CD.
All right.
Yes. Yes. I do want to say, now that I have the microphone, I do want to say that if you looked at the numbers, CD is still, is still alive. We are huge supporters of vinyl. We resell vinyl. But along with vinyl comes a CD. So I did want to put a plug into that.
I'm gonna back you up on that.
Thank you.
There is no reason.
No more CD bashing, people.
Yeah, there's no reason to denigrate the CD when we're promoting the vinyl.
My role in vinyl, actually I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the company, but my role in vinyl is we're a reseller. We resell vinyl and vinyl packaging.
Hi, my name's Lori Hines. I'm a partner in Welcome to 1979 Industries, which is an electroplating facility in Nashville, Tennessee. We also have in-house cutting. That's a part of our business as well. My background is about 30 years of manufacturing in lots of different things. So when we're talking about manufacturing, and I know the guys that were up here before in the new plant startup, I feel your pain. And we are manufacturing as well, but I've watched manufacturing of many, many things throughout the world. And to give you a little bit of comfort, it's never easy. And there's always going to be issues. It's how you deal with it and how you problem solve and make it right, I think, for the end customer. And so that's the manufacturing world we all live in.
Hi, I have no voice. I'm Allie Miller, and I'm from Furnace Record Pressing. I'm the vice president there, and I've been there for 10 years. Before that, I worked for a CD duplication facility years and years ago, so I've been in the industry for 20 years now, and we're a record pressing plant in Virginia, right outside of DC.
Hi, I'm Jessa Zapor-Gray. I'm the VP of Marketing with a small record label called Intervention Records. We specialize in high-end reissues, audiophile grade. My background is in the high-end audio electronics industry, specifically headphone product development and communications. I used to work in a record store, like many of you.
Hello, I'm Karen Kelleher. I'm the owner and president of Gold Rush Vinyl in Austin, Texas. We opened about 6 months ago. I previously came from the digital world. I was the head of music app partnerships at Google. So I get asked a lot, is vinyl a thing and a big enough thing? And I hope that sends in a signal that yes, I quit my job at Google to work in vinyl. And my interest in vinyl actually came, my sister and I had a band management company together, and we were increasingly being asked by young fans for vinyl at merch tables, and I increasingly was getting frustrated at the long turn times. So I'm very proud of the work that Gator and my team have been doing at Gold Rush and getting our turn times down to 4 to 6 weeks.
Hi, I'm Karen Emanuel. I run a broker called Key Production in the UK. Started back in the olden days in 1990, so that's 28 years. So I've seen vinyl as a very sort of steady and now growing. So it's kind of been up and down over those years. We've got 50 people over 4 different sites in the UK. I started the company in the back office of one of my customers, a record label that is still a customer to this day. So I'm pretty proud of that. We obviously also specialise in sort of bespoke packaging and CDs, and yes, they are still alive and well.
Go CDs, go CDs.
That's about it.
Great. This is a really diverse group of women in the vinyl manufacturing industry. Before we did this, most of us had not met each other, and I sent out an email and I said, hey, these are the kind of the areas that I thought we should talk about, and so that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to take my role as moderator pretty loosely and just kind of throw that out there for anyone and to answer these questions. And it is a panel about women in this industry, and this is a traditionally, stereotypically thought of as a male thing, all the way down to buying records in record stores and making music for some. We on the inside may see that that's not necessarily the case, but it is stereotypically that's how people see it. But I did want to ask, just is being a woman in this industry something that you think about on a regular basis?
I can answer that. No. I think about when I wake up in the morning, I never think of like, wow, gosh, I'm a woman.
I would if I woke up.
I don't. I've been in the manufacturing industry for over 30 years. I wake up in the morning and say, okay, you have 175 employees. What's the best leader I can be for our company? So, no, I don't.
I would echo that. I don't either. I think as long as I've been with Furnace, which has been for 10 years, we've always had so much to do, and we will continue to have so much to do. There's really no time to think about or have any sort of division of labor as it comes to gender, and that's not the kind of company we run anyway, so it just doesn't really occur to me at all.
I think about it when men come up to me and ask, how do we get more women interested? Because it does get asked, especially, in record stores, how many female consumers do you have? Like, oh, how can we change this? And that's kind of, especially in the background in the high-end audio industry, there's always that question of just like, why aren't more women here? Like, this is great, we're all having a great time. So that's kind of, I think about it then, because I kind of have to, because I'm assuming the position as a woman representative. So definitely then.
I thought about it this morning when the first 2 panels were all men.
I do think about it, and I think it's something I'm very, very proud of. It's also something that, statistically, like, I should not be sitting on this stage as a woman owner of a manufacturing plant in music. Over the past 5 years, only 9% of Grammy nominees are women. Globally, only 4% of venture capital money goes to women. And in manufacturing, only 29% of the workforce is women. So statistically speaking, yeah, I think about being a woman. I'm very proud of it. And I think it gives my plant a very strong competitive advantage, especially as a lot of younger women buyers are starting to get into vinyl. And we're starting to hear from young, especially college-age women saying, how can I get into vinyl? What record player should I start? And it's presenting an opportunity for our plant to look at things a bit differently.
Thank you for bringing numbers and statistics to the panel. I appreciate
I'm a data
that.
geek, so is Lori.
I appreciate that. As I said earlier, it's not something that I've worked for record stores, and I worked in radio for a little while for a very long time, and I've always attributed it to my kind of bullheadedness, that being a woman never stopped me from doing anything that I wanted to do in the industry. But it has surprised some people that there are some times when it's kind of like kicked me in the face that, oh, this is happening because I'm female in this. Just a couple examples, if you look at this picture of all of us, you don't really see me, and that's because I do the social media for Record Store Day, and there have been incidents where it's not a good thing that people knew I was female when I'm talking about records and record stores. people change their thoughts because they know the person behind the keyboard is a female. And when talking to some customers or some stores or anyone, I handle the communication for Record Store Day out to the public and to the stores, and there have been times, and we joke about it, but we're able to joke about it because it's happened enough that I will say something, usually something negative, like you're doing that wrong, or no, you can't do that, or something, and then the person on the other end will say, can I speak to your boss?
Ew.
And I pass it along to Michael, who says the exact same thing as I did, and it's okay. Those are just, I can only assume that's because my name is Carrie, and I can't really hide that, and it's not spelled like a guy's name, and so they assume I can't be the person saying no to them. Has there ever been, and I swear we're going to go back up on an uphill note here, but have there been things that maybe people don't think about that have come up for you?
I've also had the, can I speak to your boss? I used to have an open plan office, and people would walk into the office, take one look at me, assume I was the receptionist. So that's happened. I think a lot of people, when I started, people didn't take me seriously. People assumed that Daddy had set me up in business, or a rich boyfriend or whatever. And I got a reputation for being very, very hard because I felt that I had to be to actually sort of make my stamp and make my mark. Also, I very rarely got asked to speak on panels. And I discovered that it's because men tend to put themselves forward to speak on panels, whereas we wait to get asked as experts.
Yeah, I wouldn't be on the panel today if it wasn't for my business partner, Chris Mara, volunteering me.
Thank you, Chris.
I'll thank you later.
I don't know what it's like to be a man in vinyl, so I had to ask my team, when have you seen instances of things being different? And the thing they pointed out most was during construction phase, a lot of mansplaining happening when we were building our boiler room and our piping and things like that, and almost like me getting a pat on the head and people being like, you're a pretty girl, what are you doing in a factory? And that really, those are things that actually get said to me. So that's
someone, when I was on a tour of a boiler, like, oh, this part must be very boring for you.
Yeah.
Why?
The other thing I noticed too is, and I think you just touched on this about being hard, is that there is the type of aggression that gets perceived when you're a woman doing business is very different than men, and studies have found that if you look at job reviews, it's more often than not being too aggressive is a negative in women's reviews where it's a positive in men's, and so that is a fine line to have to walk, especially when you're trying to get things done and be effective with negotiations, just being conscious of that.
Spend a lot of time kind of undermining your own expertise. Just my opinion, right? We're having fun. That thing I just said that was totally important and right. Baby, what do you think?
Can I get a man to say that for me?
Can you repeat what I just said, please? Yes.
See, maybe mine is because of age. I think early on in my career, when I was 21, 22, didn't have a lot of experience, I ran into that more. But if someone patted me on the head, that would be an issue. And then for the people that, say, hey, can I touch your boss? It's like, no, you don't want to talk to my boss. But I don't get that. It just is different. And I think maybe because you're, younger, I don't know. I think the longer that we're in it and we put our time in, whether it's making vinyl or any type of manufacturing, you got to put your time in. You have to become, you got to listen, and wisdom comes with that. So I don't get that as much.
That's great, actually.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to work with some really great companies prior to coming to the vinyl industry, and was very lucky to have some great mentors, both male and female, and was able to grow in to the positions that I escalated to. And like I mentioned before, I've been in manufacturing facilities all over the world. And so when Chris and Yoli and I started the electroplating business, I basically took the lead on on really talking about the equipment. Chris had obviously a lot of the technical piece, but it was a really great partnership in what we offered. I'm all about the process, and I think that's where you find women also. Women are more about the process and the details around things. And I think that's when you partner with different people with different backgrounds, and it can be male or female. Then I think you bring a lot more to the table that way, and you learn from each other as well. And I think I read this book many years ago, and I had a team, I had a dysfunctional team, and a lot of them were women, and a lot of them just would not get along with each other because they were so competitive, and they all wanted to be right. And I was leading $1 billion business, and they all wanted my attention all the time to complain about the other one. So I made them all read Find Your Inner Strengths. Find Your Strengths. I may not have the title exactly right, but I made them all read it. I made them take the test, and we all came back around the table, and then everybody had a totally different perspective on how they dealt with each other. And so that was kind of a moment for me in watching people that, and women specifically, that couldn't get along and wouldn't get along, how they understood then the different person's perspective. And then they could put themselves in their shoes, and they could work with them. It made a world of difference. It's one of my proudest moments of anything I've ever done, to be honest with you.
Wow. Well, that leads me to ask a question based on an experience that I just had. So as part of Record Store Day, we've started holding our own conference specifically for record stores. Some of you have been to it. It's very specialized, much like this is, and it's for record stores. And that conference is put together by myself, Andrea Pascal, who is a woman, and also runs a distribution company and a coalition of record stores. She's general manager of both. And we work with another woman, Luann Myers, to put together this conference. And the feedback we got on the conference, one of the pieces, and I take this as a compliment, one of the things that we got back from this year's conference was there needs to be more women in the leadership of summer camp. Summer camp is what we call the conference. There needs to be more women in the leadership of summer camp. Summer camp is run by 3 women, and that's it. And they didn't, the fact that we do this and they didn't notice that it was women, or they didn't, God, there must not be any women running this, or it'd be run differently. I actually took that as a compliment. And we work very, very well together, actually. There is no competition between us. We work very well together as women. But I also wonder if, because we're women and we're very much about the details, as you said, is the conference that we put together the way it is because we're women? Are there things in your job or in the industry that you think are really touched by the fact that you are a woman? There's something about what you do that is actually better.
Yeah, a lot. No, and I'm serious. I look at it and it's like, okay, being a woman in the industry, I believe that some of us are left and right brain, and I think I hate to say this, but our sales skills, having the sales skills, having the relationships, building relationships, but also having the experience and expertise behind us, I think we make stellar sales individuals. I do. And the detail part, I don't know, I'm not as detail. Someone else does that, Greg Shaner, but more process. But I can see both sides. And is it because I'm a woman, or is it because I'm just who I am? But
yeah, I think some of the same. I think some of it is who you are individually, and some of it is maybe not because you're a woman exactly, but growing up as a woman in the culture that we grew up in, maybe you're forced to be a little more flexible, maybe you're a little more observant than a man might be, and those skills, for me at least, have benefited me professionally, personally.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I work in marketing, and 50% of all consumers at this point in America are women. Women spend more money in the household. They are more likely to shop online. They are more likely to make purchases through social media. They are more active on social media. They use the internet more than men. They are easy to reach as consumers. However, as an industry, there's kind of this perception of there's a singular person you can market to. I think in my position, the ability to expand the marketing so it appeals to the traditional audience, but looks and finds that extended audience, especially in direct sales, which a lot of the smaller labels and record stores here know that being able to find someone online and have buy from you directly is really great for the bottom line. Like fantastic. And I know distributors and wholesalers don't want to hear that, but it's true. And women are essential in that equation. If you are not reaching women on social media, if you're not building your social media account to address the female market, and there's a lot of people in here who might think like social media, who cares? Yeah, it's kind of important. There are countries on this planet that do not call the internet, they think Facebook is the internet. So you have to be aware that you are missing a massive audience if you are not saying women want to buy this. So it's important to my role because, I mean, there's a lot of money to be made, realistically, on that part of the market, and to ignore it is just stupid, so.
Yeah, I struggle with this question because I don't want to say there's like stereotypes like women are more empathetic or, you know, softer, better communicators, things like that, because I have folks on my team who are a lot better attention to detail than me, have much higher EQ than I have. But I do think your point is a great one about seeing opportunities differently. One thing I hear a lot, especially I speak a lot at high schools and colleges, trying to encourage women to get into STEM and more things like that. And I hear a lot of people come up to me and say, it's a really intimidating experience to buy a record player for the first time. And you're like, well, dig into that a bit. And they're like, well, I go into the store and I know that, that I'm not as well versed in what I'm going to need and things like that. So I think in that respect, being a woman in this field allows you to have different perspective about like how to address consumers, what opportunities there might be, especially as we look to continue to grow this market and find new opportunities. That's an area where being a woman and bringing different perspective is especially helpful.
Yeah, I think, again, sort of not wanting to stereotype, but I think women do tend to be more nurturing. So the way we deal with people is probably a little bit different, maybe more empathetic. And I think, certainly for me, it really helps in leadership. The way I sort of, treat, my company runs really well because of my staff. And I think it's to do with the way that I treat the staff, and I do think that I have a different perspective from men in that.
So I'm going to ask you to speak gender neutrally now, because we're on the stage, we're on the panel, we have the opportunity. Would you like to give your thoughts on where the industry stands right now, and at this moment in time where the vinyl industry stands?
I'll take off, and I think Karen will have some things, as we're new businesses similar to the new plants that were up here. Karen obviously has a new plant. We have a new electroplating facility, and it's been amazing just in 2.5 years to see the growth in the industry. And when we went down this path about 3.5 years ago, we did a lot of due diligence, and I am a numbers person, so I like numbers, and I like market data, I like industry data, I like something I can hang my hat on. I like to put together a bunch of spreadsheets and confuse everybody, but I really am very strong on business plans, and I believe that one of the gaps that I see in the industry right now is, I know we had the numbers portion just before this, but we need more market data. We need more insight. I don't know what it entails. I don't have an answer, but we need more insight to what's going on. Right now, what I do and what I've done when we started our due diligence, we had a lot of people that were very, very kind to us and let us come see their plating facilities, let us pick their brains, just like the new plants, almost the same scenarios. But I had to piecemeal all of that data together myself. And last year's conference was huge for me because I could take bits and pieces from everybody, what everybody was saying, and then kind of draw my own conclusions, make my own decisions then with the business, do my own forecasting, do my own budgeting, and say, okay, here's what I hear, here's what I see going on. But it's a little scary too. You own your own business here, and you're like, it's almost like throwing darts. Because you're just picking it up here and there. I think the more the industry continues to grow and more people continue to get into it, I think we'll have better and better data. But I think that's one of the things I'd like to see in the vinyl industry is something around market data a little bit more. And you got to be careful because there's obviously some technologies, there's some IP that people want to protect, and I think that it can be done though in a way that would really help us all to make sure we're making the right investments, we're making solid investments, and we're here for the long term. And it's not just a flash in the pan.
I like that. Being a CD manufacturer, we manufacture about 200,000 CDs a day, 7 days a week. What vinyl has brought to our company is that we have, it's another, I mean, I'm in it for the business. You know, I'm in it, you know, our company's in it to make money. We have 175 people. Am I passionate about vinyl? If I'm making money. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had to, you know, so I'm looking at it as a business aspect. So I look at it and say, wow, did our sales of vinyl increase by 50% last year? Were we able to increase our variable margin by 5 points? That's what I'm looking at. I need something else to sell. And vinyl's been very, very good to us, and the manufacturers that have supported us in our sales efforts have been, it's been fantastic. And I
You're
think
still invited to the cocktail party, it's fine.
Pardon me?
You're still invited to the cocktail party. They'll also talk to you.
But this is a part of market data as well, though.
Yeah.
This is a customer, right? And so that's a part of market data. When we start pulling these things together, there's a lot of people in this room that have a heck of a lot of knowledge at all fronts in the whole business cycle.
Exactly, and been doing it for 28 years. And if you take a look at some of the sponsors, Colonial, I sit on the board for Colonial, that Colonial Purchasing, one of your major sponsors here, you guys, is a buying group for polycarbonate to make CDs. You know, this Colonial group got this vinyl together. We are your supporters. You can't forget that. Okay.
Well, I think it's interesting, you know, bring it back to women just a tiny bit. You think about stereotypically women are, you know, emotionally invested and men are sort of business minded, and I feel like we're sort of representing the opposite here because am I passionate about vinyl as a medium? I'm very excited about it. I love what I do, but I think I'm more into the business side of it too.
I'm into getting good product in our facility. That's what I'm into.
In a broader sense, I think it's helped a lot that a lot of people in the industry are getting younger. It's becoming a younger industry, and that's happening across audio. And what's come with that, with the diversity in age, but also gender and ethnicity, is that we're kind of moving away from this gatekeeping culture of getting in conversations and people kind of doing those little quiet, like little test questions to see if you deserve to continue to be in conversation. And because people are moving away from like, okay, jump over these hurdles before you're allowed in the club, when you move away from that, you open it out exponentially. So that's how you make an industry more gender neutral and more open across ages, ethnicities, and genders. As soon as you take away those test questions, you open out curiosity, you answer questions you never thought you'd be answering, and you ask more questions. And as a craft, vinyl, I mean, it is a craft. It's a very complicated craft with a lot of stages. And ideally, the consumer learns more about each of those individual stages because they become more invested and they like it more. And women love crafts, so come on. Seriously. I say this as a vinyl collector. I probably love my vinyl more because I understand more about how it came to me. And knowing more about any process is important. So no gatekeeping, and you'll find more people like us up here. And more ethnicities as well. That's something we're not talking about, how white this room is.
So I'm told we're done, and
We're done.
I'm excited about the
Can we
two
do a shout out though to some of the pioneers out there that aren't sitting up here?
Well, I was going to ask if any of the women in the room would like to stand up and raise their hands, because I want to see a physical count and have that be a baseline for next year. So,
you know. Yeah, here's one. Sarah Good. Nina, somewhere. Yeah.
that's us.
Larry, are you going to cut us off, or do we have another 30?
Hey, Carrie?
Yeah.
Just one thing. You mentioned about work data. anybody who needs it to know how to make better business decisions for yourselves. I do it all the time. I don't answer questions, although I do want to know your favorite color is blue or green. So, please.
That's a gatekeeper question.
Any market data, please more than happy to share with anybody who's making stuff so that we can all do a better job. Just on the record.
Thanks for having the last word.